Hamilton throws his Ferrari down the inside at Cops. Russell doesn't blink. 200 miles an hour, wheel to wheel, and almost nobody is telling you what this fight actually proves. Everyone is talking about Hamilton's penalties at Silverstone, the false start, the yellow flag investigation. That's the easy story, the one every other channel already made. But while the internet argues about stewards, something bigger happened on track, and it's getting buried underneath the penalty headlines. Hamilton and George Russell, former Mercedes teammates, now on opposite sides of the garage, went after each other for position, lap after lap, through
Russell
the fastest
like
corners in Formula One.
Side by side into maggots, and Hamilton keeps it pinned. Hamilton gets by, and the crowd loved it.
This wasn't a one-off overtake. It was a full-blown scrap, corner after corner. Here's the question this video actually answers. Did that fight just prove Ferrari can beat Mercedes on merit, not luck, not penalties, but raw pace, wheel to wheel, in a straight fight? By the end of this video, you'll understand why that battle matters more than any steward's decision this weekend, and why it might tell us more about the rest of this season than the result on paper ever could. Why Ferrari started 2 cars ahead. Let's rewind to the start. Kimi Antonelli, Mercedes driver, current championship leader, was on pole. On paper, this was his race to lose. Lights out, and both Ferraris blow past him. Hamilton and Charles Leclerc go 1-2 before the field even reaches turn 1. Antonelli, the man leading the championship, is shoved back to 3rd before the race is 30 seconds old. That's not a mistake. That's not a bad start from Mercedes. That's Ferrari's car doing something it hasn't done all year. Remember, Ferrari themselves predicted they'd be giving up 0.6 a lap in a straight line this weekend. 0.6. That's the kind of gap that ends races before they even start. Instead, both Ferraris walked past the championship leader like he was standing still on a circuit built almost entirely around long straights and high-speed corners, exactly the layout that was supposed to expose Ferrari's weakness. But here is what nobody is saying yet. This wasn't a one-lap fluke. And it wasn't a lucky start. It carried through the whole afternoon. Race after race this season, Ferrari has bled time on the straights while Mercedes simply drove away. At Silverstone, for the first time in a long time, that gap just didn't show up the way everyone expected. If you want to know exactly how Ferrari closed that straight line gap, subscribe. I'm covering Ferrari's Silverstone upgrade breakdown tomorrow, upgrade by upgrade. The puncture Russell didn't know about. Around lap 30, the real fight starts. Hamilton dives past Russell for P4. Russell takes it right back, same lap. Hamilton tries again into Brooklands. Russell reclaims it at Cops' same lap again. This is Maggots and Beckett's territory, the fastest, most demanding sequence of corners on the entire calendar, a high-speed S's section where cars carry enormous cornering loads through quick direction changes. One mistake here doesn't cost you a position, it costs you the car, and possibly the race. And here's the part most coverage is missing completely.
And George Russell, the slow puncher, he can't keep it out.
Russell was fighting with a slow puncture he didn't even know he had yet. He was defending against a 7-time world champion at 200 miles an hour through the fastest part of Silverstone, half blind to his own tire condition. 5 words for you. That's real racing, folks. 2 former teammates, 2 drivers who know each other's habits, tendencies, and breaking points intimately from years side by side at Mercedes, now throwing every one of those instincts at each other in defense of a single position that, on paper, meant a handful of championship points. But that was just the start. The gamble that decided everything with 4 laps left, Max Verstappen spins out at Stowe. Safety car. Everything changes. Hamilton pits for soft tires. Russell stays out. That single strategy call, not a penalty, not a driving mistake, not the stewards, is what handed Russell second place over Hamilton at the flag. And this is where the story turns completely. Russell himself wasn't even happy with the result. "I'm not going to fight for a championship if the performances continue like that," Russell admitted after the race. Think about that for a second. A driver stood on the Silverstone podium in front of his home crowd and basically said out loud that he didn't earn it. Now here's the point that actually matters for the rest of this season. For most of 2026, Ferrari's biggest problem hasn't been one bad lap here or there. It's been bleeding time on the straights, race after race, while Mercedes just drove away into the distance untouched. At Silverstone, that gap didn't show up. Both Ferraris held their ground through the fastest section of the entire calendar. Hamilton matched Russell corner for corner, exchange for exchange, move for move, without the car falling apart underneath him the way it has in previous races this year. That's the real headline this weekend. Not the reprimand, not the false start penalty everyone's already made a video about. Ferrari fought Mercedes as equals, on a track engineered to expose exactly the weakness Ferrari has struggled with all season long and held their ground for the entire afternoon. If that's genuinely fixed and not just one good weekend at one specific circuit, the picture for the rest of 2026 changes completely, and Mercedes suddenly has a real fight on their hands going forward. And it's worth saying this plainly: nobody predicted this. Not the pundits, not Ferrari themselves, going by their own pre-race numbers. A team that spent the first half of this season watching Mercedes disappear into the distance on every straight suddenly had two cars matching, and at times beating, the fastest car on the grid through the most brutal high-speed sequence in Formula One. That's not something you fake for one lap. You either have the downforce and the stability to hold a line at 200 miles an hour side by side with another car, or you don't. Ferrari did, for an entire afternoon. What this means for every race left this season. So here's the one-sentence version. Hamilton didn't lose to Russell at Silverstone, a safety car did, and the car underneath him proved something far bigger than the final result on the timing sheet. Drop this in the comments. Was that the moment Ferrari proved they can genuinely fight Mercedes wheel-to-wheel, or are we still just one bad weekend away from the old story coming right back? If this gave you a new angle on Silverstone, you'll want to be here tomorrow. I'm breaking down exactly what changed on the SF26 that let Ferrari hang with Mercedes in a straight line, upgrade by upgrade, part by part.